They said Avery Rowingham walked through the gates at exactly midnight, the way some people arrive to weddings and ghosts arrive to bargains. An ambulance could have taken him, but he insisted on walking. 4 days awake had burned the world down to cardboard and buzzing light. He wanted to feel the ground under his shoes, to tell the sliding doors he'd made it here on purpose. Inside the lobby, a clock coughed up 12 a.m. in pallid digits. The night smelled like antiseptic and wet wool. A nurse with a clipboard, the kind face you'd cast if you were making a film about second chances, looked up and said, "You look exhausted, Mr. Rowingham. We have some medication that may help you." He nodded because nodding was easier than words. Words wanted grammar. Grammar wanted sleep. They led him to intake 3. The room had 2 chairs, a bed, and a poster that promised something about resilience with a photo of a mountain that had never been depressed a day in its life. The nurse, her badge read Hana, handed him a little cup with a few chalky moons inside. She explained milligrams, onset time, and potential side effects, the way someone explains the menu at a restaurant whose chef is the moon. "Drink," she said, gentle but firm, like she'd done this more nights than holidays. He took the medication and felt his brain exhale. Not a glamorous exhale, more like a tire finally finding a patch of gravel that isn't ice. Before the hour was over, his eyelids drifted. The bed rose up to meet him. There was a soft, dark slide into something that might have been sleep and might have been truce. He woke with Dawn's blue fingernails scratching the blinds. 5 o'clock, the clock said, looking guilty. He felt not good, exactly, but better, like someone had finally turned down the volume on a very loud party happening in the apartment upstairs. He catalogued himself. Tongue, throat, chest, no forklifts parked behind the eyes. Not bad. Then he glanced down and saw the dark oval blooming on the sheet. For several seconds, his brain attempted a variety of alternate realities. Condensation from the cup, prank ghost, unhousebroken cloud. But the note taped to the rail had already done the math. In careful pen it read, "Side effect expected, nocturnal enuresis, temporary. Staff will assist." If this were a Stephen King story, the note would have been written in a different hand every time he looked back at it, fluttering between calm nurse penmanship and something scratched by a key in a gas station bathroom. If this were David Sedaris, he would be describing the exact shade of his mortification, and then admitting he'd always suspected he would meet his downfall at the intersection of fatigue and laundry. A knock at the door. Nurse Hana again with the clipboard and the kindness that had edges. "It happens," she said, not unkindly. "Medication takes what it needs. We'll get you sorted." She took him to the bathroom. No speeches, no trumpet fanfare. She spoke practically, like a hiking guide pulling out a rain poncho when the clouds quit pretending. "The medication can loosen things while you sleep," she said. "We keep supplies to keep you comfortable. It's clinical, not personal." He thought about the word supplies like it was a raft. She handed him a folded, thick white garment, the sort of thing hospitals keep for patients who need them, the thing you grow up hoping will belong forever to other people in other stories. "These are diapers," she said plainly. The nurse's ethic. Say the true name so shame has nowhere to hide. "They help you rest without worrying. Tonight may be easier if you wear one." He flushed. Humor arrived like a house cat. Late, indifferent, somehow perfect. "Trust me," he said. "No one's ever accused me of being too glamorous to wear a diaper." Hana snorted. One soft syllable, a small blessing. "Sleep," she said. "Then group at 10. Group therapy was a circle of metal chairs and careful bravery. A poster about coping sat crooked on the wall. No one had slept enough to be mystical. The facilitator, a man with a therapist beard that suggested he both composted and owned a comforting cardigan, opened the floor. Avery talked. He talked about the exhaustion the way you talk about a storm that had camped over your house and kept sending lightning to check if you were still there. He talked about what 4 nights awake does to your thoughts, the way they fray like old rope and then curious birds land on them, and for a while the birds are scripture, and then they're headlines, and then they're your mother asking if you've eaten. He mentioned the medication, and he mentioned the wet spot as clinically as a person can mention a wet spot in a room where 4 other adults are breathing. Heads nodded. A woman in a yellow sweater said, "Not fun." A man with bitten nails said, "Better than the alternative." A third patient, a librarian's son from the look of him, said, "There are things that help. Limit fluids late. Plan, protect, forgive yourself." Avery asked the question you always arrive at when your life sprains its own dignity. Does it make it stop? The group offered the honest smile you only get in hospitals and airports. "No," the facilitator said. "But we have tools so you don't notice it as much. So you can sleep. Sleep is where the brain does dishes." "Mine's had a sink full," Avery said. "Then let's run the water," the facilitator said. "And yes, sometimes the water runs other places. You won't be the first to wear a diaper here, and you won't be the last." The circle made a quiet noise that meant, "We live here too." The day stretched like taffy. Avery watched the window. It watched back with the blank patience of hospital glass, which has seen the whole catalog of human plans and remains committed to letting light in regardless. He ate something soft. He wrote his name on a cup because everyone wrote their names on cups here, as if the real problem were confusion and not the feral clock inside the skull. By evening, upstairs grew rowdy. The hospital had a way of creaking at night that made you believe the building remembered its past lives. A textile mill, a hotel, a place where men in hats asked other men in hats if they had the right papers. Somewhere, metal rattled. Somewhere else, laughter. Not the good kind, but the kind that knows secrets about you. Hannah came in before lights out with the clipboard. The practical mercy. The quiet gravity of people who stand between you and the void and call it Tuesday. She held out another folded white square. "This will help," she said. "I know you heard all the talk in group, but I want you to hear it from me. It helps." He took the diaper, which felt like a concession and a rescue at the same time. He put it on, the way you put on a helmet before a storm or a life jacket before the black water. He lay back. The mattress shifted under him with the same tired sound an old dog makes when it finds a better spot on the rug. Sleep came like a librarian finally closing a book. He slept like he had paid the toll. He slept like a man in a bus station whose train at last arrived. He slept the most best sleep he had ever slept. Grammar optional, relief mandatory. Morning found him intact. The world had edges again. He didn't have to inventory the sky. He didn't have to divide minutes into suspicious parcels. He didn't have to imagine his skull full of moths. There was the diaper, yes, a small fact, not a verdict. There was an echo of shame, but it wasn't the kind with teeth. It was the kind that washes up and then slides away because the shore is busy with other business. Breakfast trays, beeping monitors, somebody in the hall arguing with the coffee machine like it owed them money. Days collected. The medications got adjusted with the tenderness of a safecracker. Avery learned the schedule, which is how hospitals turn chaos into something survivable. Vitals, meds, group, lunch, walk, rest, group, dinner, night. He learned that wearing a diaper to sleep in a hospital isn't a statement about your soul. It is a technology. So are eyeglasses and slings and the friend who texts, "Are you alive?" at weird hours. He learned that if you say the word diaper out loud enough times, it loses its talismanic power and becomes cloth and tape and an instruction. Rest. The group stitched together a quilt of small tricks. Limit the late-night water. Keep wipes near the bed. Humor before humiliation, always. "I call it my peace treaty," said the woman in yellow. "I call it pet insurance for my mattress," said the bitten nails guy. The facilitator nodded and wrote coping. Humor on the board, though everyone could see he had been waiting all week to write it. There were hard nights. There are always hard nights. One patient cried in the bathroom for a long time and came out with eyes like red coins and said, "I'm tired of being brave about basic things." The group said, "Yes," which is better than "it'll be fine" by several miles. Avery looked out the window when the sun pulled away like a shy cat. He found himself saying thank you to odd objects. The cart of linens parked like a ship in the hall, the click of Hannah's pen, the square of plastic on the wall that made the lamp go dim. He wore the diaper at night without bargaining. He slept. The brain washed dishes. The sink stopped pretending to be the ocean. Weeks thinned his exhaustion the way a river thins a bar of soap. Discharge came on a Thursday at noon, which felt like an ordinary time to leave a place where he had become a different kind of person. Someone who knew that help sometimes arrived disguised as something you did not want. At the doors, Hannah handed him a plain white package, the size and shape of a modest favor. The label wasn't winking or cruel. It simply named what it contained. More diapers. Because truth said plainly is kinder than fiction said beautifully. A few for the next stretch, she said. You may not need them for long. Or you may. Either way, we want you rested. He thanked her, then thanked her again. Outside, the day smelled like car exhaust and bakery and the nervous citrus of autumn. He hugged the package the way you hug a cookbook your grandmother left you. Functional, yes, but also something like a blessing you can carry. At home, sleep didn't always come right away. That's not how stories work, no matter how many movie scores insist otherwise. Some nights he wore a diaper and slept clean through and woke to sunlight performing small miracles on the floorboards. Some nights he didn't and woke dry and triumphant, like he had crossed a tiny border. Other nights he didn't and woke at 3 a.m. to a wet fact and a choice, shame or laundry. He discovered a trick. When he wore a diaper, he could forget about it. The mind, that petty bureaucrat, stamped the form and moved on. When he didn't, the mind kept watch like a guard dog that had read too much Kafka. On the nights he needed rest more than pride, he chose the diaper. The word became a tool. Tools are unromantic. Tools fix things. People asked how the hospital was. He said it was like a library where the books whisper back. People asked about the medication. He said it helped. People asked about side effects. He said, "There's one." And he said the word diaper the way you say aspirin or seatbelt, not as a confession, but as a fact. If they flinched, that belonged to them. He had laundry to do and a life to get back to. In October, a leaf landed on his windowsill and stuck there all day. He decided that was a message in a language he didn't need to know. He made tea. He took his meds. He put a diaper in the top drawer because rituals matter, and so does the knowledge that you could choose ease. Halloween came around with its idiot generosity, skeletons on porches, children in cardboard helmets, the yearly reminder that we are all, in one way or another, wearing the costume that lets us be braver than usual. He went for a walk. He passed the hospital at dusk. The windows looked like a grid of small galaxies. Somewhere in there, Nurse Hannah was tilting a clipboard and saving somebody's midnight. Avery tipped an imaginary hat at the building and felt for the first time in a long time like a person whose life was not a hallway, but a street. At home, he set the package on the shelf. "The end," he said, not quite believing it, not quite not. Then, because he'd learned the magic trick of honest naming, he took one diaper out and set it by the bed. Not as surrender, but as permission. For rest. For morning. For a brain that could finally put the dishes away and turn off the kitchen light. He slept. And when he woke at 5, the sun still climbing the stairs of the sky, he was dry. Not every day would be like that. But this one was. He smiled at nothing in particular, then at everything, which is the same thing as a prayer. Out in the street, a trash truck groaned and moved on. The day performed its simple miracles. He folded the diaper and put it back in the drawer, the way you put away a tool you know you'll pick up again without shame when it's the right time. Some things we outgrow. Some things we outgrow our fear of. He'd learned which was which. And he had slept. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Mommy Sarah's Story Time. If you enjoyed the stories, please support the channel by liking and subscribing. Remember, my channel is not monetized, and I write most of the content myself. On occasions when I don't, it's sourced through emails from trusted contacts. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. If you're able to, consider making a donation to support our channel. Your support means a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more stories with you.